Good afternoon, everybody. Right now it's Tuesday, June 28th. Holy crap, the month of June is about to be over. It's going to be July, 4th of July next week. And next thing you know, the year 2022 will be over. Wow, time flies. Okay, so I want to discuss this because, a lot of times we only discuss things like Marvel and DC, which is fine, but I grew up in a time in the 90s when Marvel Studios and DC movies were not dominant. I grew up in a time when cinema was done by filmmakers like Woody Allen, you know, dialogue-driven films. Um, and I gotta admit, despite the controversy surrounding Woody Allen, I am a big fan of many of his movies. And then we'll go through some of them in the IMDb list here. And for the longest time, I regarded him as one of the best uh, filmmakers, if not screenwriters, around. And I think to this point, you know, despite what you may think of him because of the whole Dylan Farrow and the whole, the fact that he married his stepdaughter and whatnot, putting that aside, the guy is talented. I'm not making excuses for him, but he does have four Oscars to to warrant that talent. So when this thing happened this morning, I was at work. I was away, so I couldn't see it live. But you know what? Now I'm back at home. I'm like, I, I'm gonna try to watch it. I've heard quotes about what was said in this interview, and but I want to hear it for myself. I want to react to it in real time, if you will. The conversation between Alec Baldwin and Woody Allen, and I know a lot of people on Twitter, when I look at my phone this morning when the interview happened, a lot of people were quick to judge because what is a man who shot and killed a cinematographer last year? What's he doing interviewing a guy accused of molesting his own daughter, Dylan Farrow? This seems like an interview that's a lose-lose situation. I know one Twitter account said, "Hey, maybe you should leave interviewing to journalists, Alec." And she has a point. I'm not arguing that. So yeah, a lot of people were really judgy about this whole interview between Alec and Woody because these are two very controversial public figures. These are people who are, let's just say, they're not in the favor of public's eye right now. A lot of people are not regarding these two people highly at this point, understandably so. So for the interview to happen between these two folks instead of a journalist and Woody Allen or a journalist and Alec Baldwin is indeed baffling. um, Samuel from France is here. Samuel, my friend from France. Hi, Rama. I saw a poster for Woody Allen movie in my theater. I don't remember the release date. Yeah, he's still cranking up movies. Just like Roman Polanski is still cranking up movies. Um, Roman Polanski is also another public figure or a filmmaker, iconic, an Oscar winner, who also was controversial, or still is, because of what he did back in the 70s when he allegedly raped a young woman at Jack Nicholson's house, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, Woody Allen is still cranking out movies, but let's just get right to the video here, and we'll react
Now live.
in real time.
I'm going to take
Hold
now live.
on. Pause. Video. Let's start from the beginning. Full screen.
Now live. I'm going to take the comments. I'm going to disable the comments, turning on.
Oh, you disabled the comments, Alec. Oh, tricky. It's obvious that Alec does not want haters to leave comments or in the chat room while he's uh, IG living Woody Allen. Snowflake. That's my reaction. My first reaction to Alec Baldwin. Snowflake.
Commenting. And here I am.
What's the use of live streaming if you're not gonna let people chat in, man? Unless it's spam, of course.
Here we are.
The only reason you disable comments is because you're a snowflake. That's all it is.
Okay, do they want to come on and do a test?
Yes, she said they.
Oh, this is funny. This is like my grandpa trying to use a computer. All right, let's just fast forward this thing through these technical difficulties.
It's more of a bust show.
Oh,
Here we go. That's great. That's
Look at these two, man. Trying to figure out their phones or maybe their laptops, whatever they're doing their IG live from, and they're having a tough time at it.
Okay. Oh, I cannot hear anything. Listen, let me see. We can't hear anything.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes. Now we can hear you.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
You can hear me. Okay.
Woody, say something. Can you hear him?
Yeah, I can.
Oh my God, Woody Allen. Anybody, any comedian doing impressions of Woody Allen is always spot on because he's one of the easiest people to impersonate.
But it's because, and I can see that I'm out of sync.
But having said that, it's still the greatest day of your life, isn't it? Being on Instagram.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Instagram is, but now you only see a part of my face, right?
They should back the camera off a little bit. The camera's too close.
Hang on, let's try
Should
this.
slide it back a bit so it's more of a bust show. Here we go. That's great. That's fine. That's fine.
Far.
What is it?
Yeah, he kind of does look sick, doesn't he? Simon Blasham said he kind of looks sick. Sorry. Let's just get off this. Back to the Instagram live.
We're now live. I'm going to take the comments and people gambling through the park. And instead, everyone is zonked out of their mind. They're numb. They're comatose, sitting on a bench in the park, staring at their phone. You know what I mean? Like intimacy has certainly taken it on the chin with social media. That's my biggest complaint against social media is that everybody is like the what's the word? Like the slab in 2001: A Space Odyssey that the monkeys are worshiping or puzzling over.
Well, I can't comment on social media because I really don't, I'm just not up on it. It's never interested me because I've never been interested in anything, any kind of gadgetry, cameras, tape recorders. They just don't interest me. I never have.
What about Telegram? Pigeons. By the way, this whole thing complaining about social media is such a grandpa, such a boomer thing. I mean, like years from now, when I become a grandpa or when I become an old man, I would be complaining about the next generation. Like, oh, why are you doing that? No, back in my day, this whole argument right now is about hey, pull your pants up, stop skateboarding in front of my yard, get off my lawn.
So I never got into social media. Now, as I say, I have a Facebook page, but I don't know I've never seen it. I wouldn't know how to access it. And I don't know what it does exactly or what benefit or problem it is for me. I don't know, but it's run by people who, manage my business and they think it's important. So great.
Well, you also have to have, I'm going to sign off with you, Emily, and call you back. Bye. You also have what they call the placeholder, which is that you don't want someone else to co-opt your name, which I've had happen. Like in the dawn of Facebook and so forth and websites, you had to find the guy that had copyrighted your name. And the law prohibited you from demanding that you get your name. You had to buy it from him.
what do I care if he copyrights, if he steals the name? I'm me, he's him, and he can say he's me, all the time.
Much healthier attitude.
You meet him, you'll be able to tell the difference immediately. And it doesn't matter if he does something illegal, we'll catch him, and not worry.
You have a much healthier attitude about it than I do. Now, let me ask you this as we begin here, and that is, when I read this book, it's been a while, and I'm talking about your new book, Zero Gravity, Woody Allen, Zero Gravity, for those folks out there.
Oh,
and it's been
promoting a book. I didn't know that. Freaking A. What is that with the rainbow color too? Like, is that an LGBT pandering thing?
a while since I had to have my phone next to me to look up all the names and the references that I was not aware of. I mean, you really, and I'm wondering at what point, go ahead, you were going to say something? Go ahead.
I was going to say, my wife tells me the same thing.
It's gonna say my wife saying the same thing. Oh my God! I need to buy me some glasses right now and do a Woody Allen impression.
I can't believe that, only because was thrown out of school. I'm not erudite. I'm writing off the top of my head. In those pieces, they're a collection of pieces that have appeared in the New Yorker magazine, many of them, and I supplemented them with some that I wrote at home to kill time during the pandemic, and I put them together. They're meant to make people laugh, really, hence the title Zero Gravity. They have no substantial weight. They're just fun, you like a paper cup, you drink from it and throw it away. It's but people tell me that there's that they have to look up words now and then. This is not the worst thing in the world, but
No, it's not.
I don't find vocabulary particularly extensive, certainly no more than than the average person's.
Well, the question that I have is, at what point in your life did you decide that that you wanted to become not that you aimed for this, but you are this connoisseur in this kind of writing, in these books you write. You are this connoisseur of words and references. And at what point in your life did that become attractive to you? How old were you when you yourself began to want to just expand your?
I always write, even as I could write.
Okay, real quick, that was a pretty good line of questioning. I mean, like, I never thought that Alec Baldwin had it in him to be an interviewer. You know what I'm saying? That was pretty good. That whole thing about, hey, at what age did you start looking at this, like something that's appealing to you? I was like, but he put a context to that. I mean, I struggle doing that sometimes when I do interviews, mainly because English is my second language, but also because I'm trying to find the right words to contextualize that. That was pretty good. I just gotta give credit where credit is due. That was pretty good.
Believe it or not, it sounds so ridiculous. I could write before I could read. I would make up stories. I couldn't write them down, but I could write. And I became a comedy writer because I had a sense of humor. And then I was always attracted to men and women who could write amusingly. Darcy Parker, Robert Benchley, James Thurber to a degree, and ultimately I was introduced to S.J. Perelman, who is really the icon that I aspire to. I'm really like a road company Perelman. He was just the best thing that I ever read in terms of comedy. Hilariously funny, brilliantly imaginative. He just knocked me out. And over the years, I read everything that he wrote. And of course, like everyone in my generation, we all aspired to be published in the New Yorker because that was the ultimate humor magazine. And I couldn't believe, when I was in my 30s, I guess, I wrote an essay, what they call in the New Yorker a casual. It's technically not an essay, and it's not a short story. I wrote it, and I was going to send it over to Playboy magazine, and Louise, who I can't remember if we were married then or just going together, said, "This is very good. Send it to the New Yorker." And I said, "The New Yorker will never print it." And finally, she talked me into it, and I sent it there, and they printed it. They wanted it, and I was stunned. I was knocked out that they did it, and it started a long relationship I had with them for years, and I wrote for the New Yorker for years.
Samuel said, imagine a live stream with Woody Allen, Alec Baldwin, Ezra Miller, and Amber Heard. Oh my God, that would be like the heavyweight of all heavyweight live stream. You know what I'm saying? That would take the cake like crazy. I mean, whatever headlines happening that day, Ghislaine Maxwell or January 6th committee hearing, they would be minuscule compared to that live stream. It would overshadow the news cycle that whole day. But real quick, I want to comment on this because Woody Allen is reflecting on his past memory of when he was younger and getting his articles published in the New Yorker and some other outlets. And these were like the heydays of print. You know what I'm saying? You know how people say the um, print journalism is a dying breed because everything's now video, short video, TikTok. Everything's now all website driven, stuff like that. But back then, it was a big deal to get your stuff published in something like the New Yorker. The equivalence of that today would be like some of my friends who are freelancers. I'm not a freelancer. I have my own website, but some people, they would send their articles to HuffPost or Vanity Fair. They would send their review of Thor: Love and Thunder to Variety. In hopes that Variety will say yes, we'll publish it and we'll give you money, or we'll credit you on the name on that. So that's how people that's how people climb their ways to notoriety today, especially for writers. If you get your stuff published in all these, HuffPost, Vanity Fair, Variety, Hollywood Reporter, stuff like that. That never appeals to me, mainly because I'm not a good writer. My English grammar sucks. But also it's just like, oh man, it's just, I don't have it in me to be groveling at the feet of these other outlets and publications. And I'm saying like, oh, please let me in. Please publish me. Please. And it's getting harder and harder today. If you want to get your articles published today, it's getting harder and harder, more difficult, because many of these outlets, they don't just publish anybody. You have to have a blue check mark on Twitter. You have to be somebody first. You have to be a member of this association or that association or this guild or this union, and then you can get published. So it's not as easy as it used to be back in Woody Allen's era. So let's just skip this part and then go straight to.
They're a great magazine, but they have refocused their interests on relevance, political and social relevance, which was not what they were. They were usually, short stories and poetry and comedy things, and so. But for years I wrote for them, and it was a great experience. And I've always loved written humor. I wanted to do written humor rather than be a stand-up comedian, and I always had this argument with my manager. Of course, he was right, and I presumed I was right, but he was right. I thought I could write something funny and just get up in a nightclub and read it, and people would laugh at it. And he was trying to explain to me that the audience embraces the person. It's the person that they're interested in. If they connect with you, if they like you, if they find you funny, then you will succeed at it. But if they don't, it won't matter. And I thought I could just get up and read. That's what I wanted to do, to write, to be a comic writer, to be a stand-up comedian. But, you try different things, and you're like,
Is it safe to say?
planned.
Is it safe to say that there's a period where, you've always written comedy, you've always written films and books and essays and things like that, and you did stand-up, and then performing stand-up comedy obviously stops. I'm assuming you always played music, but did you find that those two things transitioned where no more stand-up comedy live, but I'm going to play music live because you were more comfortable doing that?
No, the music thing is ridiculous. I'm an amateur uh, jazz musician, New Orleans jazz, and I'm terrible at it. I'm not even good at my hobby, and I would do it. And if I wasn't known from my movies, if I didn't have a modest celebrity status, then I wouldn't have gotten any place. But people came more to see me in clubs, and they forgave my terribleness. And I played. I certainly gave it my all. I played with my heart out, and I practiced every day. I mean, I always practice, but it doesn't matter. If you don't have it, you don't have it. And I practiced and played, and I suddenly found not only was I playing just in living rooms like a weekly poker game with other musicians, but we started to play in clubs and started to do concerts. I found myself playing for thousands of people in opera houses in Europe, and 5,000 people would be standing in the rain to hear us. And it was a phenomenal experience. I think the only positive thing that you can come away with there is if you really love something and you do it with sincerity, there's a chance that you can communicate.
Oh, he froze.
You broke up there.
Of course, it's on Instagram Live. It's not
lost
Zoom. See,
Are you there?
this is why you got to do Zoom, people. Don't rely on Facebook Live or Instagram Live or.
We froze. Can you hear me? Because you guys are frozen. Can you hear me? Hold on.
Look at this. Wait. Look, it's Alec Baldwin's butt, people. Ah, that's too funny. Oh, Alec Baldwin is mooning us right now. Wow. But it's not because it's frozen. It's because I press pause. Okay, let's just fast forward through this funniest shit. Okay.
Okay, let's do this.
Dude, that's why you gotta do Zoom, bro. Do Zoom. What are you doing Instagram Live, man? What are you doing Facebook Live or Twitter Live? It's never certain with those platforms because they buffer, they skip, they have bad connections, they they shut down from time to time. I think Instagram went down like a few days ago. Oh, by the way, Mr. Crispy is here. Mr. Crispy says Woody is 86. Hope he makes a new movie soon. All right, Mr. Crispy is a big fan. Oh, let's fast forward through this hilarity. Oh, did he get Woody back? It's no, not yet. Okay, let me fast forward.
Is your internet signal good?
Oh.
Your internet. I think so. You know, we just opened a door. It might make a difference.
Okay.
Is your internet signal good? Yeah, we opened the door. We opened the window. Yeah, we opened the closet door. We even let the dogs out. It should be okay. Yeah, it should be, because that's how internet works. If you open the trunk of your car, then the signal will go stronger.
So the difference between writing apropos of nothing and zero gravity, is there a difference in the way you write a book?
There's a big difference because my autobiography took a long time. And by a long time, I mean over a year to write. I wrote a little and came back to it and remembered other things and came back. And you have to sustain interest for the reader, for many pages, for a few hundred pages, several hundred pages.
She said he's probably still on
I
one.
tried my best to do that, to make my autobiography entertaining and not just a parade of facts. He was born, and like a Wikipedia can be 10 times longer, but it's not 10 times harder. It's 100 times harder. I found that to be true. I tried to write a novel years my childhood, but I wasn't familiar with literature, and I didn't have a sense of narrative structure and characters, and it's just so I've just never been able to do it. I can write amusingly, and I do in these short things, which we call, at the New Yorker, they're called casuals. It's interesting. They're not essays. People always call them essays, and they're not short stories. And they needed a name for them. This is long before I was maybe even born, for all I know. They needed a name for them at the New Yorker, and they called them casuals because allegedly they're casually written, or at least casually read. And so there were those great casual writers for the New Yorker, like Perelman and Benchley, for example, two great ones. And so Zero Gravity is a book of casuals.
You might have had one little interaction with them, but it was memorable to you or significant to you. And you name a lot of names of people that you interacted with in a very thoughtful way. And then I want to mention what I guess is the converse, which is your wife must know that when you write a book of casuals, you're going to give her the business a little bit every now and then. I mean, my favorite.
I want to fast forward to when they talk about movies here. I feel like talking about his book, because I haven't read any of Woody Allen's books, but I've watched a lot of his movies, so I have more thoughts about his movies than his books. And he's read a few books, including this latest one.
Favorite line is you say,
and I gave her a different dictation in apropos of nothing.
Scathing, yeah, not mean spirited. Now, I did a TV series.
Ooh, he's talking about Third Rock.
Taught to me by Lorne Michaels and by Tina, I mean, not directly, but by implication, or by just demonstrating that, network TV was harder to do because you can't go blue. Network TV, you can't say the F word. You got to find, 25 other ways to say what you want to say that don't violate broadcast standards as such as they are today. And so it's a tougher job, and I grew to respect that. I grew to respect that when you watch Netflix and you watch HBO comedy specials, it's a barrage of off-color language and imagery and very harsh as far as I'm concerned. And I would say the same is true for you. I know this is a dumb question, but has a character in a movie of yours ever said the F word? Or not that often, correct?
Yes, once or twice. But
this is an interesting question. Now we finally get to Woody Allen's movies. Okay.
But I always feel when you need to be what is called popularly dirty, or when you need to be graphic with some kind of a murder scene or something, then you should be that way. I haven't had the need for it. If the need ever arose where I needed that kind of, for instance, I always felt I needed it in my movie, Mighty Aphrodite. Now, I myself, being a prude and coming from a different generation, blanch when I hear that kind of stuff, but I had it used all through the movie, and so when I see that movie, it's always too dirty for me. If I did it over, I would try and do it more skillfully. But yes, I feel you should use whatever language you need freely to make any point you need. I just object to it when it's gratuitous. when you don't need it, when you could do it, you know, when you can do it more without, you know, it's
Lazy.
So basically, it all depends. It all depends, right? I mean, if you've seen as many Woody Allen movies as I have, it wouldn't make sense for the characters to just drop f bombs every other word, because that's not the kind of movies that Woody Allen makes. You know what I'm saying? And that's what he's saying here. He's like, I never feel the needed to. There were a few f bombs here and there, but that's not the kind of stuff I write. I'm paraphrasing what he said basically. Like, there's no need in my movies for those, off-color languages. He mentioned The Mighty Aphrodite. By the way, that's a fantastic film. Mira Sorvino won Oscar for that, Best Supporting Actress, and if you haven't seen it, go check it out. But even that is like, there's no, again, it's a Woody Allen brand of humor, Woody Allen type of storytelling. If he feels like it fits the characters, for the characters to just like, say f every other word, then yeah, he would have probably put them in. But I I don't think it has to be a standard, if you will, for every movie to have that.
It's lazy.
all
I,
over.
I did a film. I did a film once, and I did a small part in Marty's film The Aviator, and I was playing Juan Tripp, who was
Right.
the founder of Pan Am. Now his daughter, who was an older woman, she died a few years ago. She is my neighbor. She was my neighbor out here on Long Island, and I was introduced to her by mutual friends of mine. So, and I went to her home, and she had read the script. I got her the scenes, I guess, of my scenes, and in one scene when I'm getting bested by Howard Hughes about something, I say the F word. I'm looking at a globe and I shout, fuck, when I'm there. And her name was Betsy DeVecchi. That was her married name, Betsy Tripp. And Betsy DeVecchi said, Dad would never say that word. He would never say that word ever. So I went back to Marty and I said, his daughter kind of objected to it and said that her father would never use that kind of language. And it was a long pause. And Marty looked up at me and goes, I need you to say it. Just say fuck. I need you to say it. So it was like we're in Marty's world and Marty's in charge. So we do what we're asked. But I noticed about you that you don't cop out with that,
No, but I use, that kind of language all the time at home. I mean, anytime I drop something, or if I drop my baked potato on my lap, or if I stub my toe, I'm a mass of furious, cursing, and I do that all the time. But
Me too.
artistically, when I'm doing a film or a play or something, it's like having a spice. You want to put it in when you need it for effectiveness, not when it's used all the time just gratuitously. So that's my only feeling on it, and my feeling on it is not necessarily correct, but it's my feeling on it.
Whenever you play with those words, they're in the helium factory or wherever they store the parade equipment, and the guy says, come on, who's the cheese eater?
Oh, right. Yeah. Right.
And then you say, oh God, forgive me, Barney Dunn. Then they cut to the guys in the alley. Barney Dunn, he was the stuttering ventriloquist, he says. That is truly one of the few. I tell people, when I'm down, and I said this to you before we did the last interview, when I'm down, now there's things I can watch, even dark things that will intrigue me. I'll watch the movie. I have very few movies in a file in my computer, but I'll watch like In Cold Blood, because I think Richard Brooks is a great director.
Mm-hmm.
He had the courage to do the movie in black and white. The acting is seamless. It's a very harrowing story, and you're very upset because it's a true story, but it's such virtuosic acting. But I'm not going to watch that movie to take me out of the doldrums, you know what I mean? In my life, there is no one, and I mean no one other than you, who, when I'm down, I just have to put on one of your films, and it's like the warm bath for me that just makes everything okay. When I watch those movies, when I watch Radio Days and Danny wrote all that, I mean, it changes my whole day. But anyway, I want to ask you, you've got another movie coming out this fall, correct?
A movie. The movie. No, I don't.
You're going to go make one this fall.
That movie is out.
Right.
The Rifkin's Festival.
Rifkin's Festival.
Rifkin's Festival came out. It had a brief run in the movie theater during the pandemic, and then, like all the films that come out, went over to streaming. You can see it either on pay-per-view or streaming. I don't know because I don't follow any of them, but it's one of the things that it's one of the things that I feel discourages me from I've done 49 movies, and I'm about to do maybe my 50th movie. And
wow, 49 movies. I'm sure Steven Spielberg has more, but that's a lot of movies, man. Holy crap.
When the pandemic came, I was in the house like everybody else, petrified, hiding under the bed, and I didn't go out for months. And I couldn't make a movie that I had planned to make. And then after a few months went by, I started to think, gee, I like it under the bed. I mean, morning, and I don't have to go out. I don't have to make a film. I don't have to be cold in the winter or hot in the summer and up at 5 o'clock in the morning and making decisions all day long. I'm home, and there's nothing I can do but my exercise, practice the clarinet, and write. So I was home writing a lot. I wrote a couple of plays. I wrote the supplementary material for Zero Gravity, and I thought to myself, what if I didn't make film? This is a nice way to live. Then I thought, well, maybe I'll make one or two more. I'm 86 years old, but I like staying home and writing. I'll probably make at least one more movie, but a lot of the thrill is gone because it doesn't have the whole cinema effect. It isn't when I started, you'd do a film and it would go into a movie house, and movie houses all over the country.
Oh, here we go. Woody Allen channeling Martin Scorsese or Steven Spielberg. Like, oh, movies are not what they used to be. Movies are not what I remember them to be. Everything's now theme park movies, Marvel movies, and going to streaming service. Oh, get off my lawn. Pull your pants up. So here's the segment right here. Basically, an old man segment, if you will, complaining about how things are not the way they were back in their days. And like I said earlier, we're all gonna get to this point. Someday you and I are gonna get to the point where we become like Woody Allen, like old and really resistant to change, and like, oh man, it's like all the thrills are gone now because the way things have changed. But that's just life, with every passing technology, with every passing year, every passing generation, every new trend coming and going. You can't expect, or you can't hope for the way cinema to stay the same like you remember them to be. Like, they're gonna change. They're just gonna change.
And people would come, by the hundreds to watch it in big groups on a big screen. Now you do a movie, and you get a couple of weeks in a movie house. Maybe 6 weeks, 4 weeks, 2 weeks, whatever.
Dominic says, I found myself at that point at times with certain things. Right, Dominic?
And then it goes right to streaming or right to pay-per-view. And people love sitting home with their big screens and watching on their television set.
And there's nothing wrong with that, Woody. There's nothing wrong with that. Some people you see the gas prices right now. It's freaking like $7 a gallon. You see the ticket prices at the movie theaters right now? Almost $20 per person. Almost $20 per person. Plus the $7 per gallon going to 20 minutes drive to just even longer sometimes if you go through traffic. And Mr. Crispy says no one even seeing art house movies anymore. Exactly. So Mr. Crispy brought up a good point. Woody Allen's movies would fall under the category of art house movies these days. Back in the 90s where I grew up, or if you were from the 80s kids, watching Woody Allen movies was an actual theatrical going experience. It's like something you anticipate to go to theater to watch. I'm saying, oh my God, Woody Allen has a new movie coming out in 2 weeks or this weekend. Let's plan it together with friends and whatnot. Go watch Midnight in Paris. Go watch Mighty Aphrodite. Go watch The Curse of Jade Scorpion. Oh my God, Woody Allen movies coming out. But now in the days of like superheroes in spandex and capes and Thor, Love and Thunder, and Natalie Portman, wielding a hammer. Of course, Woody Allen's movies are not going to be like that in that same category. They're going to throw them into the art house theaters. And guess what? Nobody watches art house theaters. So after 2 weeks or maybe less than that, it's going to go straight to streaming service or whatever platform online, that you can find Woody Allen movies. So yeah, you can complain all you want, Woody, but that's just the facts of life.
And they have good sound and clear picture, but it's not the same as when I went into the movie business, and so it's not as enjoyable to me as it was. I don't get the same fun of doing a movie, putting it in a movie house, and and some of those movies I put in movie houses, they run for months in the movie house. Annie Hall ran and a half. And it was a nice feeling to know that 500 people were seeing it at once, or 800.
And also that appointment you make, which is that now what people want is to press pause and go make a picture of martinis, and press pause and go get some more guacamole, and press pause and go make a phone call or go to the bathroom. They don't want to have, I should say, not that they don't want to have, they care infinitely less about experiencing the film in real time the way that the filmmaker intended. Years ago, not years ago, but a few years ago, you made an appointment to go into a room, and you got the Raisinets, and you got the popcorn, and you got the Dr. Pepper, and you sat down, and the whole thing unspooled in front of you in real time, and you ate it. You sat down and ate the meal whole.
Yep.
It wasn't interrupted all the time by
complete
attention span.
And not only that, where else in a city or small town in the middle of the daytime can you walk into a place and it's dark? It's great, totally dark. You leave the real world behind and you go to your seat, and there on a big screen is whatever, Humphrey Bogart or Rita Hayworth or whatever you're watching, Fred Astaire. And the experience, it's hard to explain that. And someone else will say, yeah, but I'm home. I have my friends over. We're sitting on the couch.
They don't care.
Raining out. Feel about making.
Mr. Crispy, that would cost $50 these days with all those snacks. Exactly. And but there's some truth to what Woody Allen was saying. There's as a cinema lover, as a movie fan, you and I, we do want to, have that experience. And I get it when Woody Allen said, like, if you go to theater, everything is dark except for the screen. It's like the whole world just kind of fade away except what you see in front of you. I get that. That's a great feeling when you go into cinema. When you watch something that you love. But to counter argue that, not all movies made today are made for that experience. Some movies are made for what Alec Baldwin said, so you can pause it every now and then. Some movies have actually, like, some of the scenes would cut to black, as if it's gonna go into commercial, even though it doesn't. But some movies are made that way because everybody's not in the theater, but everybody's on or Everyone's at Home on Netflix. You know, that kind of format. Um, Dominic says Al made a movie called Irrational Man, starring Joaquin Phoenix and Emma Stone that I like a lot. Oh yeah, yeah. I don't think I've seen that one though. Thank you for the reminder. I think I'm the only fan of that film. Buy a snack from dollar store and put it in your pocket. Exactly right. A lot of people even like sneaking food into the theater. So yeah.
Movies. I mean, I, I'm going to in London and Paris and in
Spain.
Spain. Yeah, it was such a delightful experience and refreshing for me that I started to do that and
Fast
it
forward this to.
became a very enjoyable thing that I look forward to.
I don't mean to fast forward it, but it's pretty much a big segment of like, it's a fest segment of complaining about cinema today versus cinema yesteryears. So let's just fast forward it.
Because my wife watch Fellini and Bergman and Truffaut and all.
Okay, so when Woody Allen dropped names like Humphrey Bogart, Fellini, all these names, how many of you guys raise your hands? How many of you guys still remember those names? This is like a window to the past right here, man. It's like a time traveling thing.
Those movies that
Today we drop names like, oh yeah, I watched Robert Pattinson, I watched Colin Farrell, I watched Harry Styles. Harry Styles was in the movie Eternals, people. I think that's the equivalence of like Woody Allen dropping names like Humphrey Bogart.
they were closing. So I kind of feel that yes, I will work again in film, but I might want to turn to writing and
Have other people direct the film?
yeah.
Mr. Crispy says, I saw that in the theater and liked it, Dominic. 3 people were in the theater. So Mr. Crispy saw Irrational Man. There you go, Dominic.
I directed.
No, but what I'm saying is, would you write scripts and have other people direct them?
Oh no, I wouldn't do that. I would.
Never.
Oh, wow.
I would write novels. I think I plays. The only trouble with plays is I have the same whining complaint about the theater. When I was younger, you'd go to the theater district and it would be lit up and it would have one interesting play after the other, and it was just fun to go, and it was a tremendous amount of variety. And now the theater in the Broadway area, first because it's a dreadful mall, which was the worst idea in the world. It just killed the whole area.
So I laughed because number one, he said, because Alec Baldwin asked him, like, would you ever write a script that you let other people direct? Like other filmmaker would direct that script. And he said no. It's true, because Woody Allen never lets anybody direct the script that he writes. And I think that goes to the fact that Woody Allen is a control freak, man. Some people are just, hey, that's my baby. Only I know how to envision this thing. And the second reason I laugh is this thing when he's like, oh yeah, oh now it's all a mall. Oh freak that mall, man. What an eyesore, freaking mall, people hanging about.
But all the shows are, to go, and it was a tremendous amount of variety. And now the theater in the Broadway area, first because it's a dreadful mall, which was the worst idea in the world. It just killed the whole area. But all the shows are, like musical revivals and shows where you've got to get a star because they cost millions of dollars to put on. When I was coming up in the business, it was a treat to want to write for Broadway. If you wrote a sophisticated comedy or a regular show, it cost like $40,000 to put the show on. The same show today is millions of dollars.
Yep.
And of course, people get scared because they are risking a lot of money. So they want a movie star in it. And the movie star doesn't want to be tied to a show month after month. And so they come in.
Well, that's a good thing that he points out that, well, not good thing, but a fact that he points out, like how Broadway was made cheaper back then. Everything was cheaper back then, of course, I imagine. I wasn't born, of course, when when the Broadway back in the heyday. But I believe that, $40,000 to make a Broadway production. I'm talking probably not a musical, grand musical Broadway, probably just a Tony Award play. But now it's like in millions of dollars, and he's right that sometimes you see Broadways in New York, and they would, the advertisement on the at the Times Square will be like, oh, Will Ferrell is starring in this Broadway, or freaking Jude Law is starring in the Death of a Salesman or whatever. Like, so now it's like they really have to rely on bankable names. Even Broadway, we're not talking about movies. This is Broadway.
For 3 months, and so you get these.
Because that's how you get your money back. If you cast an A-list names. Otherwise, all that millions of dollars put into making your Broadway will go down the drain.
These revivals of musicals, and you don't get. There is no more Tennessee Williams and Arthur Miller and William Inge and Edward Allen.
Very little.
You don't have that. So, I'm on your show here. I'm complaining, but
he's like, I'm on your show right now, complaining. But hey, that's what I am doing right now. What can I do? Of course, they're not. Of course, Alec Baldwin is not gonna ask the questions about Dylan Farrow and Sun Yi, and of course Woody Allen's not gonna ask Alec about the fact that he shot a cinematographer last year or killed a cinematographer. So this is softball, just two old boomers complaining and really like wishing that days or things would just go back to the way they were back in their days.
But the thing about the theater is now it mimics the movie business. You have to have a tent pole, that term, that tired phrase. You have to have a tent pole actor, someone you can build the whole thing around. And, when I look at that on Broadway, when I see shows like Music Man and Jackman is a phenomenally talented and charming guy. The good news is that a lot of people go to work. A lot of actors get jobs. A lot of union stagehands go to work.
right,
Takers, people I'm always in favor of these hit shows and these runs economically because people are getting employed. I'll never forget one day I was sitting on a set of a film when I was very young, and a bunch of us were making fun of the kind of less than wonderful reviews of an Arnold Schwarzenegger film. And the producer walked up to us and he said, "Don't do that." And we just looked at him, we were kind of puzzled. He says, "Don't bash Arnold's films." He says, when Arnold makes a movie, 250 highly paid people in the movie business go to work. And number two, they peel off a VIG off the top of that box office to develop other scripts for a movie that you might be in next year. So don't begrudge people's success. And I kind of took a little bit of that.
Oh, that's not a bad advice. That's not a bad pearls of wisdom. You know what I'm saying? Okay, if you miss on that, basically Alec Baldwin said when he was younger, he was bashing on one of Arnold Schwarzenegger's films, but he didn't mention which film that was. And a producer come up to him and is like, "Hey, don't be bashing on Arnold's films. You know how many people that film hired? A lot of people. And number two, that would create another sequel or it would greenlight another script for Arnold's next movie, and it would hire more people, and that people would include you or might include you. So, yeah, that's a very, very good advice. Unfortunately, I'm a critic, so I always bash things whenever I can. But if you're in the career of Alec Baldwin's, if you're an actor, yeah, you never know. So be mindful of what you criticize, because he's right. It takes a village to make a movie. It takes a village to make a show. Sometimes we forget about that. Sometimes we forget that. We hate a movie so much and we hate a show so much that when the show gets canceled or when the movie does bad or doesn't have a sequel, we're like, hey, we celebrate. We often forget that there are people working behind the cameras. They need the buck. They need to put food on the table. And he's right. You may say Alec Baldwin has a temper problem. You may say Alec Baldwin is self-centered, especially after he shot and killed the cinematographer. All that is true, but equally true, just as much, is what he just said here. Um, Dominic says, I used to be one of them as background talent a decade ago. I was praying Burn Notice and Charles Angels went on forever, but they eventually ended. Yes, see? Exactly. Dominic knows what I'm talking about. So, very good pearls of wisdom there from Alec.
To heart.
Write plays occasionally, but it's not the same. It's just the world that I grew up in, the movie world and the theater world, the Broadway world,
still complaining.
is not the same, and it's less pleasurable for me. So that combined with the experience of liking to be home and writing, enjoying my free time, and that, because I think to myself, if I write a play, there's no.
So let me just fast forward this so we can end this. It's been an hour now. But Woody Allen basically said if you didn't catch it earlier, he's gonna retire after one or two more movies after this. And you know what? Good on you, Woody. Good on you. You have had what, 4 Oscars wins? Yeah, dude. Just enjoy your fruit of labor, man. And times have changed. Nobody's gonna watch your movies. I'm not trying to be mean, but nobody's gonna watch your movies. The next 2 movies that you're gonna make, like you said, I'm gonna make 1 or 2 more. Let's face it. Let's keep it 100. Nobody's gonna watch that, except for me, probably the critics. So yeah, just hang your towel, man. Just enjoy your life. A lot of people don't get to look back on their career as successfully as yours. So why the hell not? Why the hell not? Like you said many times throughout this Instagram video, you complain many times like, oh, things are not the way they were anymore. Okay, yeah, then retire. Because things are not gonna go back to the way they were. They're never gonna go back. So instead of like complaining, just go off into the sunset and enjoy your money.
Pictures for the most part, but there's always moments of greatness. The picture will be terrible, you can't sit through it, but there'll be a moment of greatness in it. And of course, I would have liked to have directed, although I couldn't do much better, Bob Hope, who I was a big fan of Bob Hope. I always find myself defending him because people always think of him as that Republican who's always doing, Miss America jokes and him. But if you look at Monsieur Bouquet, for example, and even a terrible film like Casanova's Big Night, he's brilliant in it. The film is, of course, silly in it, but don't worry about that. Focus on how great a comedian he was. But Monsieur Bouquet is quite a wonderful film, and it's Hope at his best. He's really great.
So, is Woody Allen planning to make a biopic movie about Bob Hope? Because that would be pretty awesome. Hopefully, that's among one of the 2 movies that he said he's gonna do next before he retires. That would be pretty awesome.
I have to write the books. A lot of people.
All right, guys. I think they're going to talk about the books again, so let's just cut this right off. Okay, so if you recall, Timothy Chalamet, the Dune star, he starred in A Rainy Day in New York a few years ago, and that's a Woody Allen film, and he regretted it because a few years ago, the whole thing about Dylan Farrow reemerged again. The allegations of Woody Allen abusing his daughter. And, again, I'm not defending Woody Allen. I'm not making excuses for Woody Allen. If he did what he did, then that's awful. And, of course, we're on the side of the survivor, which is Dylan Farrow. But yeah, Timothy Chalamet back then said, hey, I'm going to forward my proceeds from that, or my salary from making that Woody Allen movie to charities, for Time's Up movement. So Woody Allen is not in the best, position right now as a filmmaker, as a storyteller. we talked earlier about how his movies are now in art house cinemas. Nobody really watches his movies. Um, that's because of the way his films are, and on top of that, because of his reputation with the whole Dylan Farrow thing. So it's a really, really toxic mix. um, but I gotta be honest with you. I still to this day admire Woody Allen, the storyteller. I still admire the way he writes his script. I think I admire the way I admire his sense of humor. And one of my favorite movies of Woody Allen's is the one that he won Oscar for, Midnight in Paris. Oh my God, have you seen Midnight in Paris? That was an amazing movie. All these actors playing like late great authors of the past, and then Woody Allen. I mean, not Woody Allen. I'm sorry, Owen Wilson. Owen Wilson time travels and meets all these writers, and it's just like it's a cookie kind of, not cookie cutter, but it's like a really quirky. That's what I'm saying. Not quirky, not cookie, but quirky. It's a quirky romantic comedy. It's just such a great film, and when he won Oscar, when Woody Allen won Oscar for writing that, I was like, of course, because in a sea of today's remakes and reboots and sequels and what have you, Woody Allen has always been the original guy. Like he's always his writing. He may have written a few adaptations, but mostly he writes original stuff, and he won Oscar for original screenplays. So I will always admire that about Woody Allen. You know what I'm saying? He's just in today's age, something like that, a talent like that is rare and refreshing, and it's like, oh man, when is the next Woody Allen gonna come by? When is the next Woody Allen minus the baggage gonna come by? When is that gonna happen? And so we're just gonna have to be waiting, because Woody Allen is facing the sunset, basically sunset years. Mr. Crispy, thumbs up moving. What a scam! Yeah, if you look it up, they have even Times Up Moving was controversial. It still is. Um, so it's not as they're not saints, if you will. But yeah, that's my opinion about Woody Allen. Look at this. Look at the movies he made, man, over the past. Midnight in Paris, love it. Vicky Cristina Barcelona. Oh, come on, remember that? That was a great movie. Penelope Cruz, Javier Bardem, Scarlett Johansson was in it. I think Penelope Cruz won Oscar for it. Oh my God, Vicky Cristina Barcelona was amazing. See, look at that original story. It's not an adaptation. So you can understand why, putting aside what you may think of him as a perv or whatever, with his stepdaughter or with his daughter, with Dylan Farrow. Putting that aside, the guy is a talented SOB. Sweet and Lowdown. Come on, you guys. Sean Penn, come on. Sweet and Lowdown was an amazing film. Wow. I forgot about this. So, yeah, who knows when the next Woody Allen's going to come by. We don't get Woody Allens anymore these days in Hollywood, where original work, original screenplay, original story with that kind of sense of humor, with that kind of cleverness to it. So overall, that was a very, very interesting interview. Would I have liked it better if it was a journalist? If it was a journalist interviewing Woody Allen, probably, but. That if a journalist interviewed Woody Allen there, that it's not going to be a softball question, right? A line of questions. The journalist would have asked him about the whole Dylan Farrow thing, because that is part of their duty as journalists. So Alec Baldwin and Alec Baldwin interviewing Woody Allen, that was more of a conversation between two actors rather than a straight up interview. If you want to be technically correct about it, but there's some, despite the complaining that Woody Allen did, they're complaining about how the theaters have changed these days. I still find that whole thing very enlightening, especially the way he talked about the peoples of the past, the Humphrey Bogart and all those guys. Like, oh my God, it's like, oh, see, we don't need a time travel. If you want to time travel, just talk to your grandpa or your grandma, and like they'll get you through the time machine to the old days of how things were, because man, it's just like it takes you back, man. It literally takes you back. So yeah, I'm gonna miss Woody Allen. He says he's gonna retire. So here's to you, Maestro. Here's to you. Thank you for all your films. Thank you for entertaining us over the years. And go enjoy your reputation. Go enjoy your money. Go enjoy your retirement. You deserve it. All right. Thanks so much for you guys for chatting in. Dominic, Mr. Crispy, Samuel Blashon. I know this is not a very Marvel-y, DCEU-y kind of live stream. It's not Ezra Miller. It's not Amber Heard. It's not sensualized. It's not scandalized. It's not sensationalized. But this is a live stream just most mainly for me because I'm a fan of cinema. I'm a fan of film, and I'm a fan of storytellers like Woody Allen. So thank you for you guys for chatting in, okay? And for those of you who didn't get to chat in, share your thoughts in the comment section below. And as always, subscribe. Let's wrap this.